Next, I want to talk to you about choices in covert surveillance gear. You might have heard me mention before that I use a backpack that has a dual camera system in it. It's a great device, but if I'm following someone into an office building, walking around with a backpack may or may not fit in. In that case, I also have a laptop bag that I carry, which a laptop bag works very well, and it works in a lot of different situations because let's say if you have to follow someone in a grocery store. Well, again, if I walk in with my backpack, their store security might confuse me with a shoplifter. If I walk in with my laptop bag, then the store security or the person that I'm following might just figure, hey, he's a guy, he doesn't go grocery shopping often, and he might have an expensive work laptop that he doesn't want to leave in the car. So in that situation, the laptop bag may work out. I might follow a subject, and because I said before, you never know where your day is going to take you, I might follow them to the beach. They might be taking a casual stroll, they might have gone to do a little hiking. Again, my backpack or a fanny pack might come in handy because it's a more athletic situation. So always keep in mind, you want to make sure you keep 1 or 2 cameras, a couple of different options. Which brings me to my next subject. When it comes to covert video, being dressed like this in all black will not work to your advantage. You want to make sure that you quickly change out of what you're wearing and or add something over what you're wearing. So a lot of times in a car, I might carry a very light colored, very diffusing shirt. And I'll rip this shirt off and I'll put on a pink or very light green polo shirt. And what that'll do for me is, in the event that someone just happened to notice this guy in a car, follow him, maybe the guy had a black shirt on, well, when they go into a store, or especially if it's somebody who's more of a professional insurance claimant or something like that, they're not going to look at you if you're wearing a light colored pink or a very flowery shirt that's just far away from this black stealthy look. You don't want to walk around with the Oakley glasses on and that stealthy look, looking like a Secret Service agent, like in the movies you're talking to your wrist kind of thing. That's not what covert surveillance is about. Covert surveillance is about blending in and making sure that you don't stand out in the crowd. So you're not going to be dressed like Men in Black. You're not going to walk around like this, like you're on a tactical maneuver when you follow a subject into a store or location. You also will have to make sure that you're very, very much prepared for what's going to happen next. One of the worst things that you can do on a surveillance is make it known that you're a fish out of water. And you have to be quick on your feet, and you have to think very quickly. For example, one time I followed an insurance claimant, and they went into a place in a strip mall. I quickly donned my gear, I threw an extra shirt on, and I just happened to be in shorts that day, and I decided since they were at a strip mall, I was just going to leave my shorts on. I walked in, and it turns out that the person that I was going to follow was going into a yoga class. Now, in a yoga class, you have mats, and they're laying down, and I really wanted to make sure if this person was going to be laying on the floor contorting their body, that I needed to get that video. So I asked them, I said, hey, I never did yoga before. Would you mind if I took a class just to see if I like it? If you do have a class starting now, maybe I can try it and see what I think. And the lady was like, sure, no problem. There happened to be an empty mat. And I got lucky enough because I was talking and I kind of delayed things a little bit. And I was able to get a spot that gave me a line of sight to the subject I was watching. I had my camera system back then in a belly bag, so I just quickly took the belly bag off and I propped it up against the wall between me and the person next to me, and it gave me a perfect line of sight to the person I was trying to videotape, and I got excellent video. So you got to be very, very quick to think on your feet. If you follow someone into an office building and you're looking around, you see them go into an office, and you want to find out what they do there, maybe you're trying to determine whether or not the person's working, good rule of thumb is just wait a couple of minutes and get yourself together, relax, take a couple of deep breaths and go in. You walk around, you look for, act like you belong there. And that's a very important thing. A lot of times people will not notice you or realize that you don't belong there if you look like you belong. You have to blend in. If they don't have a chance for you to blend in, one of the things that you can do is fill out a job application. And that can be a little dangerous at times, but if you ask to fill out a job information, then you can always put a bunch of fake information on there, but that'll give you a chance to kind of hang out in the office and see what's going on. And perhaps if they're hiring, I've actually done that, and they took me for a tour around the office, and I actually got the job even though I didn't take it, but they actually took me around the office and gave me a tour of the office. Now that's rare, and that doesn't happen all the time, but the point is you have to be very, very quick on your feet. You got to think quickly, and you got to make sure that no matter where you are, you find a way to insert yourself in that situation. Again, restaurants is another prime example of making sure that you walk in, you're confident. Now restaurants are different because they place you or they might seat you. One of the things I like to do is say, hey, I'm supposed to be meeting some friends here. Would you mind if I look around and see if I can see them? And I'll walk around the restaurant and I'll figure out where my subject is, and I'll figure out where the closest table is that's empty, and I'll go back and say, hey, I found a table that I really, really like. It's where me and my girlfriend sat the last time, and it's a thing that was really important to her. Is it possible you can get me that same table, and maybe even tip them? And it works. They'll make sure that they try to make their customers happy, and they'll get you the table that you want. So keep that in mind. Okay, so we've discussed a couple of different things you should know before you start your covert surveillance. Next, I want to talk about the hardest part of covert surveillance. If you watch some of my other videos, I relate shooting video from your vehicle or with a camcorder very much like using a sniper rifle. Every little movement you make back here can be miles or feet out there. What you want to do with covert surveillance is consider it like this. Covert surveillance is shooting a handgun blindfolded, because you're going to have your camera on you. It might be an eyeglass holder, you might have a pager camera, you might have a cell phone case camera, you might have a belly bag, briefcase. No matter what you use, chances are you're not going to be able to see where that camera is aiming at that point, which means you need to spend a lot of time practicing with that camera. And a lot of times I like to use cameras that, if I'm using a cell phone case camera, something that comes off my waist and not the front of my body. Why is that important? Well, if I'm following somebody in a grocery store, then I want a camera that shoots off the sides, because I want to be able to look at the label on a can of peas and be able to videotape from one side or videotape off the other side. And I know guys who have cameras that they'll put a cell phone on this hip, and they'll have some little PDA case on this hip, and they'll have devices where they can actually toggle back and forth between those two cameras. Or simply, if you have something that videotapes off of this side, and that person walks by you, they're going down the aisle and they're going this way, and as they go behind you, you let them go a little bit, you push your cart, and you're pushing your cart, and then you just go to the other side of the aisle, and you look at something on the opposite side, so now you got the video coming, and you have the video going. But what makes that possible is you have to consider when you buy your camera, and I spoke before about black and white versus color, day, night, but you also have to consider your lens, which translates to your field of view. Now what field of view means is if you look at your cameras, and a lot of different camera companies out there, and by the way, we do sell custom camera systems. So if you're watching this video, you say, wow, I want my own covert camera system, and maybe you want us to build something for you, check out our website, www.ssgllc.org. You can go there and you can look at some of the stuff that we offer, and then you can also ask us, hey, could you build us a camera this? And we do custom stuff. So feel free to give us a call on that. So getting back on topic, your field of view means some cameras might have 180 degrees field of view, which means it's a very, very wide fisheye lens. Now, if you have a subject that's on the opposite end of an aisle in a grocery store, that person is going to be very, very small, and it's going to be very hard for your client to determine what they were doing at that time. If you find a camera with maybe a 90-degree field of view, or maybe a 3.5, 4 millimeter lens, that's usually a very, very good choice for doing video in a restaurant shopping center, store, mall, and those kind of applications where you want to be a little bit further away from your subject. If you have a camera that you might want to use for interviewing people or identifying someone, maybe somebody behind the counter at a convenience store, somebody that might be waiting on you, you want to use a camera that might have a wider field of view, maybe a 2.3 or something like that. Now 2.3 is a lot wider field of view, and you're going to be able to grab more detail when someone's close up on you, like for example sitting across from you at the other side of a table.